So I've been working within communication and specifically branding for about 3 years. And it all started with a very exciting task, which was changing the name of the company. So we went from Statoil, we used to be, and now we're Equinor. And what we did, we basically changed the name of a company that for many Norwegians was a household name. They all knew us, and we changed it to something else. So we had to start rebuilding our reputation. But we saw that when we measured, reputation was still a bit tainted, especially amongst the younger population and also among women in general. So we saw that, and we also saw that the climate debate was becoming so polarized. There was no middle ground anymore. You were either trying to save the world or you were trying to destroy it. And if you work for a company like Equinor, by definition, you're kind of trying to destroy it. And just to be clear, we don't think so. We actually think that what we do is very important in making the world a better place for everyone.
I came to a conclusion a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, that I wanted to make a difference and make my contribution to making Norway an exporter of clean energy and maintain the position as a clean energy exporter, changing out in some time, for sure, the oil and gas to, let's say, electricity and possibly also hydrogen, which I'm looking at. We will strive towards 50% CO2 reduction by 2030, which is an immense target really for a large company. But you can imagine what 35,000 people can do if they turn their focus. So this is what I'm working on, turning the focus of a large enterprise and working towards a great Norway position in it, basically. And this makes perfect sense to me. It connects, let's say, what I know of business and organizational life and what gives me deeper meaning to me as a human.
I started back in 2001. I was a bit hesitant before entering into the industry because I thought back then that, well, isn't this a sunset industry? Isn't it a bit dark and a bit boring, not at least? But then, of course, 20 years later, we talk about energy. We talk about something that is fundamental to economic development. We talk about resources that are non-renewables. We talk about 50% of world energy demand, technical frontiers, energy security, high expectations from local and national societies, and of course we talk about climate. So it hasn't been boring for a day.
I'm a geologist by my training. I've worked 25 plus years now for a range of major, minor, independent and national oil companies. The role of the geologist in those organizations is a key responsibility up front to find oil and gas. So it's using technical data from the subsurface to identify places where you might drill. Once you've found something, you've got to appraise it, typically drilling a few more wells, acquiring seismic data, working out how much is in the ground, what's the size of the resource that we've got, what's the division of that resource, where does it sit, whose land does it sit on, or whose license does it sit on. And then there's the technical complexity of how do you get that out of the ground. So there's a really wide range of technical things that go into that. And I think the key challenge for me that gives me a buzz, if you like, about this is solving those complex technical problems, trying to get one of these discoveries to be commercially viable, and so that we can produce it and it can provide us with the energy that is essentially the commodity at the end of the day.
I agree with John's point about the quality of energy availability around the globe. As to whether or not you could have a happy society without continued economic growth, my understanding of history is the answer is no. A society, groups, tribes must constantly be growing and have an opportunity and a vision of growth and hope for the future. I definitely agree that there is an incredible amount of waste, and I share Alice's desire to have greater energy efficiency. I think that's one thing that the wealthy nations certainly could make a lot of progress in that area, in which could be substantially improving our emissions if we were just to try to waste less. Such an easy thing to say, seemingly easy thing to do, but difficult to put in place. But I think the answer is society, civilization, the globe, humans expect growth, economic growth, in order to continue to exist peacefully amongst one another.